So, hi everyone, today this video will be about how to treat our addictions, understanding first of all why we have addictions, and so later on understanding how to deal and obviously trying to make us being better behavioral talking by just doesn't having this type of dependencies. I'm not depending on doing any type of behavior as checking my phone, any type of alcohol, drugs, that stuff. So we have to understand that addictions is a complex condition that involves a persistent compulsive dependence in a substance or behavior. Normally, we tend to get more addicted to substances because will go so for inside of our body, and so they kind of have a higher probability and a higher potential in how so they can modify the way that our brain understands and perceives the world. And so it's important to understand that I would rank substances that are like the things that we have like to most have care about, and these obviously involves the word drugs. It's like one of the things that most gets us addicted to, but obviously we have things that as well addict us that are like checking phones, seeing reels, any type of stuff. So we have to understand that we consider being addicted a disease because it changes the way that our brain should work, and everything that changes the normal type of flow of work of our organs of our body, it's considered so that is a disease created. And how so the addiction is created? Addiction changes the perceptions and the rewards that the brain perceives about the world. And the reality that we see that normally people that we call as addicted, they tend to perceive things other than just what they are addicted as less pleasurable than the normal people's are, because they're so addicted in relation with a specific stimulation. So a people that is addicted, it doesn't mean that it's addicted to everything, and so it gets obsessive for all the type of things that they can experience. Sometimes we just are addicted to something. We just have like this emotional connection with something that so make us have a dependency, and we, whenever we're not experiencing doing the behavior or consuming the substance, we are always with the basal level of dopamine. That's a substance that is something that is highly correlated with the power of will to act. It so makes us being more down. That's why people that are addicted, they kind of get the peaks. They're the peaks when they're kind of experiencing their substances, which they are in the top of the moon. But when they're not, they're like the other peak, the other extreme peak down, that is doesn't feeling nothing that can qualify. So what's there like the sensitive, like what's like the senses of lack that they feel. So that's why it's important to understand that addiction and someone that's addicted and has a problem is not regulated. Their system, their brain is not regulated. The reward system is not regulated. And the reality is something that is not unchangeable. People can be addicted to something, and with the time, and obviously the work now tends to obviously help to obviously increasing so the transformation in the people brain in order to so the neurons reorganize, and so having a better way to perceive it, to act toward reality. It's about chemistry, it's about chemics. We have to understand that chemistry of the brain is what so creates unfunctional or not type of behaviors, and so we want to arrange in our brain. And so how we can arrange in our brain? We can arrange in our brain by doing actions. And what are the type of actions that we tend to do? One specific concept is that when we're addicted, and mainly when we're addicted to the things that are like not good to be addicted, because there is not like something, it's not like I can be addicted to a person, but normally we don't feel like that being addicted to a person is something that's it's so much pleasurable then the work that has to be done is trying to avoid the thing at all costs, as atoms, for example, with PORN. PORN is something that obviously the majority of the teenagers have already have seen, and why it's different being obsessed or being addicted to someone than PORN or DRUGS, because these last two ones, they tend to be naturally more pleasurable for our brain, and our brain, that when it gets these type of pleasures, what he understands, what he learns, it learns by that, it learns that it exists some things that you cannot match in how pleasurable they are. And these things are these last two ones that we do. Because when you're so attached and when you experience our reference level of what is pleasurable, it kind of increases much more than what you should be. And we start to see that playing ball with persons is not good, is not something that gives us pleasure, something that should, having so the contact with other persons should be something that we should feel a reward, but just our brain learn and has done these type of actions, and obviously which more so we increase the time of exposure, more the brain's gonna get adapt to the stimul, that stimulation that he's got so faced. And so these things are things that we cannot just like have, we have like to change the way that people towards are in relation so of these actions, and mainly is cutting, and we have like the progressively cutting. But how we do it, so we have to understand that we have to cut. It's not just like a process of reorganizing and understanding, modifying the way that they perceive us as a connection. Someone that's got a boyfriend and we got cut, the obsession that can come, so we get addicted to the person. I'm just happy if I'm with this person. What you have to do is not so trying to cut any type of relationship that I can possibly have in the future. Is not what the psychology says to treat, because there are things that it's like the work has to be in changing the beliefs in the person, that we cannot be addicted to a person. That's the strategy. While other things that I have said, DRUGS or PORN, are things that we have to cut. They're not things that we have to rearrange, because they are naturally something that is too much pleasurable. And our brain, if you see the logical why this happens, because our brain always, when that it retrieved in a zone that our main type of pleasures that our human brain was made for, it comes from doing the actions that are like the end game for humans, that are to survive and are to reproduction and to eat a lot of food. And so that's why we see that normally the people that get addicted to things that are come with sex is like the thing that gives the most pleasure. It's like the reason for why the human species exists is to reproduction, to survive. We are made, our brain is made to, when we see everything that has connected with sex, to get and to like build a bond and trigger a bomb of pleasure. That's not something healthy. We're not made to all be constantly facing the possibility or things that are connected with this concept of sex. And that's why we have to cut, we have to arrange some ways to people not see these things. Substance, we're not made to have a lot of foods, a lot of junk foods. That's why we get addicted to foods. But in that case, we cannot cut foods, but we can cut the things that are too much pleasurable, that our brain and us were not made to survive. Do things like artificial food. We're made to eat like normal foods that are not too much fat on him, because fat tends to trigger a lot of pleasure in us. That's why we tend to seek things that have a lot of fat, as chocolate, as fries, as pizza. And we're not made to all be constantly doing it. And so our brain was made in a scarce environment. So whatever, any type of trigger that is in correlation with sex or foods, we're gonna get so much attached, because are the things that have a higher ratio of outcomes that we want with the efforts that are needed. And it's so easy now today. Junk foods are the easiest thing that you can get. Things that are connected with sex, just entering the internet and you can get everything that you want to see. And so That's why we have to take care. We have so by the evolution we have made a so low cost type of action that in the past were not, and this we're made still to feel a lot of pleasure to doing it. So why do we get so much attached? And so we enter in cycles that our brain builds on references that even more exposure. The brain is always made to achieve more, and so why it doesn't exist a end game which we feel and show our brain it kind of is not, we don't have the same pleasure if we do always the same thing. That's why we always seek more. People don't get stopped in action because they don't have like the willingness to achieve more, because they don't have the belief that they don't need to achieve more, because they doesn't trigger any type of good pleasure is something that's not true. The thing that done by a good amount of time in comparison when I started and when I finished I feel much less pleasure than I would feel initially. And so we're something that we're adaptive. Our brain always try to range more and more, and so we're entering in a slope that we're gonna see people that are watches 8 hours of PORN, it doesn't feel pleasure, something that if other people that have not done that and do this, the cooperation is really different, because one has so much exposure that it doesn't feel the same. And so what enters? We enter in a cataclysm that people addicted, feedbacks without any control. People so gonna get in really bad position. So I really hope that this video help you to understand why addiction is bad, and this video has like the main function to clarify that things we have to avoid. It's difficult to not get addicted to things as the RUGS and PORN are things that are just difficult, and junk foods mainly as well too are things that are difficult to not get addicted. Other things, social medias, where our brain was made to learn, to make information, and obviously which more easier is better. We get so much in social media, our brain, so we will achieve more. We will see that we're gonna be in 5 hours social media scrolling, absorbing information, and understanding. Our brain was not made to always trying to be absorbing information. It's something that we have to take care. That obviously cataclysm. 5 hours starts not be something that I call as enough. Then later on 7 hours will not be something that's enough. Other things we have to work and are not like naturally addicted. The work that if we got addicted to the things, we have to work in the perception you have about the things. So they are different. It's like a different type of addiction, and that's the one that we have to work. Other one we have to try to cut as much as we can, and we have to adopt journey to try to cut and do it by playing with psychology. Seems to say that reduces the perception of benefit that something gives to us. So trying to make difficult to assist PORN, being difficult to consume her UGS stuffs, or attaching good things with avoiding these type of things as junk foods, or establishing and promising that I'm going to do a bad consequence that I don't like doing a push-up if I do one of these two things. So to with obviously with the fact of the time and these strategies to cut away totally. And other ones is working, being rational. So understanding that if I'm got addicted to a person, the work is there. It's not trying to avoid future relationships. It's to work in understanding my behavior with people and relationships. And being rationalized will also tend us to understand that I cannot be addicted to a person, because mainly the relations that we have with persons, we don't need them properly, and they're like something that we can consider as crucial to our survival. So with this video, I hope you to be more rationalized, understand your addictions, and use psychological tricks and therapies to work in mainly in this type of things that we can call as addictions, that are like something that not judgment, something that our brain gets addicted, but because as like wrong beliefs, and other things that we have to cut because they are addictions that they are difficult to not get if I get exposure to the component, to the substance or the type of behavior. So see you in the next one.